Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV pilot's license with service to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember, today's in-flight meal will feature bad office coffee, awkward jokes from your seatmate, and most importantly, Jell-O with a hint of staple flavoring.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How you boys doing today?
I'm good. You guys ready to do this, John?
Yeah, we don't get one single Philly accent in this. I am actually, after you mentioned the shitty office coffee, I'm like, oh, I have this beautiful vision of one of those refrigerated circulating vending machines. You know, the ones that like they're tiered and they have like
an automat.
Yeah, like the ones that you have like the you can pay $1 and get an apple out of there, like a saran wrapped apple.
Oh, what's the most dangerous food to get out of an automat?
Ooh.
It's an egg salad sandwich, and that's where
Gross.
I'm staying.
Yep, Jeff wins. Game over. Number one answer.
Mayonnaise heavy.
Anything salad sandwich is very, very chancy, and I you know what? I
It's
wish
got
you the
a
best
shelf
of
life.
luck. If you are listening to this podcast at work and you're holding that egg salad sandwich, good luck. Well,
If you could prove that you're sitting at your desk eating an egg salad sandwich listening to TVPL, we will send you a gift card to your favorite restaurant.
We will mail you an egg salad sandwich.
we will mail you a thing of mayo for your egg salad sandwich next time you have it. Well, gentlemen, this week we are celebrating a show that I think we've all been waiting to do, but in recognition that a spinoff is very, very soon to be on the internet airwaves.
Hot on the heels.
We are going to be talking about NBC's The Office. No, we are not talking about the UK's version today.
Or the Indian version, which is also on Peacock.
That's true as well. But I'm really excited to dive into this. But for folks who are here because they saw a title of a show that they liked, or folks who are here for the almost 150th time because they're a frequent flyer, Max, what is this podcast all about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilots and making us want to watch more, and if we think they've been made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And Rich, what is your question of the week?
Well, I think what this particular pilot reminds me of so much, because it is almost a shot-for-shot reconstruction of the pilot of the UK Office, but with more American jokes. I want to know, do you think we need to start adopting the British TV model? Like, for the British Office, I think there's 2 seasons total. Fleabag, there's 2 seasons total, and every season is like 8 episodes, and then there's like a huge break in between. Like, do you think that we're just kind of being overly catered to in the American version or American version of this, and like is the quality dropping because of it?
Well, I'll start us off, right? And I think there's 2 things. One, there's the joke of, well, like the UK only has 4 channels, so like they have to figure out, they have so much content that they can distribute amongst those channels. There's not a need for 22 or 18 or the odd 13 episode show seasons. That said, I think that there are instances where we have certain creators who say, no, I am not going to continue to be paid handsomely for this show to have more seasons than it needs. I am going to stop right here. And I go back to The Good Place, which very much had a defined, this is going to be a 4-season show, and that is it. I know NBC, you want us to keep on going. We're not going to do it. I have a vision for this. So I do hope that we get more stuff like that, where people are like, there are this many seasons. Like, let's make a deal right here. My concern of why we might not is because it is a ever occurring theme on our podcast. Sometimes an executive doesn't like to be that creative and likes to beat something until it is dead and dry and there's nothing to give. So am I expecting 9 seasons of Wednesday on Netflix? Yep. I'm fully prepared for it. But do I hope that they say 2 seasons is good? Also, yes. Max, I'm curious.
It's always Wednesday here on Netflix.
Yeah,
I didn't realize Stranger Things is a British show, taking them 5 years to make a goddamn season. Look, Rich, with all due respect, we did not declare independence from the English to call seasons a series and have them be 5 episodes. Also, I don't know if either of you guys have ever been to England and been bored in your hotel and watched British TV, because 90% of it are things called Gogglebox, where you watch people watching TV and their reactions to shows, and dating shows where you either eliminate contestants based on dishes they cook for you or naked body parts. Almost all British TV is trash. This model leaves so many gaps that we are just watching people watch TV for entertainment. You want to know why Love Island is 6 nights a week in the UK? Because every other TV scripted show is 4 episodes long.
You're right. It is like, I guess if the demand is there, if the addiction to the TV is there, like, I can't imagine. I mean, first of all, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, I truly don't understand the fascination with watching people play video games, which has completely it started a multiple $billion business and brought more billions of dollars into YouTube. But like, I think for me, I do like I think there is power in brevity. I think there is power in like, oh, we are only entertaining this many ideas. I want to see the version of it just takes me back to like there's a Comedians in Cars between Tina Fey and Jerry Seinfeld, where they were talking about, you start off every season, which is at that point 22, 24 episodes a season. You do you start off the next season with 9 episodes that everyone wrote over the summer. Mm-hmm. And then you have like the back 9 episodes. And then you find like a handful more out of the ether,
like finding change in a couch.
And I'm like, but you don't have to do that. And it's like, and it's my biggest gripe with SNL too. It's like, you don't have to start Monday. You don't. You can do 2 weeks leading up into SNL and have it be crazy strong every single time. And then they don't do that. And it's just like everything feels like everyone's just putting themselves in this weird box for no reason.
Well, I will just comment to Rich's dig at people watching video games. I want to shout out the Game Grumps and Kofi Yaboa, both of whom I really enjoy watching because, Rich, I'll just give you a little peek into why. I find that the streaming, why we like it, is why commentary YouTubers are the most popular channels on YouTube right now.
I don't understand that either.
People who write or are clever or funny and you can just sit and laugh at their jokes. Some people like podcasts where we comment on TV pilots. Some people like someone who's playing backyard baseball competitively and also trying to hit a home run with every single person available on backyard baseball. It is very hard. But what I'll say is I think that's such an interesting question. And who knows? If you have a thought of whether or not we should adopt that TV model that's used by the UK, put it in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts.
I thought you were about to say whether or not we should adopt someone streaming over our podcast, giving commentary while we're talking.
Oh, my God. Well, Rich, thank you so much for your question of the week. Let's talk a little bit more about The Office. And we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. Characters at a paper company in Scranton, Pennsylvania, go ploddingly about their business under the watchful eye of an ever-present and unseen documentary crew.
Ploddingly?
Ploddingly.
That doesn't sound like a real word. That sounds like a British office word.
Yeah, it does. But you know what, Max?
It was ploddingly slow.
I think we're going to hear a little bit more about some friends in Britain. But can you tell us a little bit more about how this show got made?
Today we are talking about the pilot episode of The Office, which originally aired on March 24th, 2005 on NBC. And we are talking about the show's creator, Greg Daniels, a bit to kick things off. Greg Daniels has an illustrious career in comedy spanning 4 decades. His first professional gig came in 1985 when he was hired at HBO's Not Necessarily the News alongside his friend and Harvard Lampoon partner Conan O'Brien. The show was short-lived, but the duo earned a 3-week tryout at Saturday Night Live, and during his tenure, Daniels won his first Emmy in 1990. In 1993, Daniels was hired as a writer on The Simpsons ahead of the show's 5th season. His first day in the writer's room would coincide with Conan's final day. He won an Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program, and Solo received a nomination for Outstanding Achievement of Music and Lyrics for penning the classic tune, Who Needs the Quickie Mart? In an attempt to find a suitable animated companion for The Simpsons, Daniels is initially brought on for development of a new series called King of the Hill, written by Mike Judge. After providing rewrites of the pilot script and taking the writers to Texas to do research, he is given a co-creator title by Judge. We skip ahead now almost a decade with Daniels' deal at Fox coming to an end. He is free to develop a new project on any network he so chooses. He is sent VHS tapes of a BBC comedy called The Office by his agent and seeks out a meeting with the show's creators, not with the attempt of adapting it, but simply to learn how to make this style of comedy. Daniels meets with the creators, the comedians Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, with Gervais being a huge fan of Daniels' work on The Simpsons, particularly the Season 6 episode, Homer Badman. Homer's accused of grabbing a co-ed's butt. It has the gummy Venus de Milo. You know the one if you're listening to this podcast.
It's such a good episode.
He earns the right to pitch an American version. Daniels, Gervais, and Merchant shopped the show to cable networks, with Kevin Riley at FX being the most excited about the project. However, when Riley takes a job at NBC and still wants to do the project, the trio has to figure out a way to make this concept work for network. NBC orders a pilot with Daniels essentially rewriting The Office's original British pilot. It would mark the second recent attempt by NBC to adapt a UK comedy series after the failure of Coupling, lasting only 4 episodes in the fall of 2003. The pilot goes through some rewrites and cuts for time, but Daniels states it resembles the British version fairly close. The show was picked up at 2004 upfronts after receiving a big boost by the UK version, winning Outstanding Comedy Series and Actor in a Comedy Series at the Golden Globes, also broadcast on NBC that year. To help create the documentary style, Daniels hires 2 DPs who came from the world of reality TV, most notably Survivor. So we're going to get into some bits of fun facts, a little bit of lore now. First is the show's iconic theme music composed by Jay Ferguson. Originally, Daniels wanted a popular song for the theme and made 3 mock title sequences on DVDs for the cast and crew to vote on. These songs were Better Things by The Kinks, Float On by Modest Mouse, and Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra.
That would have completely changed the vibe.
ELO was chosen as the winner, but Daniels was shocked to see the song used as the theme song for another pilot that year at NBC, the short-lived LAX starring Heather Locklear. Her theme music you know and love was written just a week before the pilot was due to air.
Wow.
Crazy. And finally, casting. Steve Carell was the creator's first choice for Michael Scott off of his cameo in Bruce Almighty. However, Carell was committed to another NBC pilot called Come to Papa. Bob Odenkirk was seriously considered for the role in his stead, but the team got word that Carell could film the pilot and The Office would be in second position pending Come to Papa's series order. The show lasted only 4 episodes, freeing Carell from his contract. Many of the show's audition tapes are available online and were made public by NBC. They include Rainn Wilson for Michael Scott, Jim Krasinski for Dwight alongside Seth Rogen, Patton Oswalt, and Judah Friedlander, Adam Scott and John Cho for Jim, Catherine Hahn and Angela Kinsey for Pam, and Eric Stonestreet for the role of Kevin. And that takes us to today's episode.
Wow, they really had Asian Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I did not think that Tom Papa's Come to Papa was going to come up in the history of the show or how the show got made, but
I still can't believe they tried to build a show around Tom Papa. No shade to Tom Papa. He just doesn't seem to have that type of charisma.
Are there better names that we could come up with for that show? Maybe on the Come to Papa episode. That
Tom of the morning to
you. Well, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit more about The Office. And let's start off with, we do get the iconic intro to this show, which we are so used to not getting the theme music that everyone grew used to. We are so used to not getting the montage that happens at the beginning of the show. Although this one was different, for sure, than the one that ended up being used later in the season. But I just want to hear from the two of you. Max, you spoke so beautifully about the intro to the show and the montage. But what do you think? Does this theme song fit from a pilot perspective?
I appreciate the jangle, and I appreciate how mundane everything in the montage is, because we see these as sitcom intros frequently, where it's clips from moments in the series, it's big character choices, it's bold things, And this one literally features a water cooler bubble. It is so mundane.
Yeah.
It is so milquetoast. And I think that it sets up that we're going to be seeing some boring scenescapes, which I appreciate as a point of entry.
Yeah, I think what they're supposed to, and you know, we're going to get into the overall like feeling of, is this supposed to read like a documentary? Is this supposed to read like a BTS of the documentary or whatever? Like, it is, they really toy a lot with that. And you know, I know that's like such a huge part of like the kind of genius behind Stephen Merchant's contribution to the original UK Office, and that he loves documentaries and like really wanted to film a mockumentary. Like, he's a huge like Spinal Tap fan and stuff like that. The mockumentary format worked super well for him, and now you cannot escape it. And you literally cannot make a scripted comedy series that's not in that format. It seems like it is nearly impossible. Abbott Elementary is like that. Like, it is What We Do in the Shadows. It's all documentaries. It's all documentary style.
Well, let's put ourselves back into the mindset of this pilot, right? And this being 2005, because Rich, I'm really glad you brought up the filming style, because I think the first thing that I thought watching this was I was brought back to Christopher Guest and his movies immediately.
Yep.
I was thinking of Best in Show. I was thinking of This Is Spinal Tap. I was thinking of the idea of the comedy of diving fully into some characters and making them so within the first 2 minutes of us meeting Michael Scott and Jim, I know almost everything I need to know about them to start to be invested in them.
Oh, yeah.
And we start off this show, and we're not going to go truly point by point. It is a 22-minute pilot, I believe. But I do want to start off with this first scene because I think it's so critical for a couple of reasons. One, did I have PTSD flashbacks of my time in sales and having to sit in with my manager trying to do a call?
Oh,
yes.
I'm
Yes,
jealous that it's flashbacks.
I woke up in a cold sweat last night being like, I have to make 150 calls tomorrow. But the thing that I think is established immediately is two things about Michael Scott, and I'm curious for you too. Not only is Michael great as a salesman as we watch him close the local library, but he's also not good at his job at the same time. And I'm curious how you two are juggling with that concept on first glance.
It's okay. Going from an office working standpoint, it is a extremely common thing where someone who got really good at their rung of the job they're like, oh, of course, well, you'll do great in management. Nope. Nope. It's extremely not the case. And what ends up happening is what ends up happening is that you end up like taking out your best salesperson, basically, putting them in a managerial role that they're not mentally prepared for. And then by doing that, you lose the rest of the sales department, and then you also lose your best salesperson. It is like, it's an extremely common thing. Management does not necessarily equal like talent in that particular field.
Max,
sorry.
knowing that you've never worked in a traditional like corporate sales job, right?
Knowing that
really
you never
curious
got cast on The Office.
Yeah, and tell me about not being cast in The Office. No,
yeah. What the hell were you doing when you were 14, you idiot?
What were you doing in 2005?
What happened to the child labor arc of The Office that we
I really thought suburban Connecticut dinner theater was going to net me an NBC pilot at 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a drive. They had a Stamford office.
You mean to tell me? You mean to tell me they're shooting Van Nuys for Stanford? Fuck this shit.
But I'm curious for you because there is this very large population that The Office is catering to, right? Of the idea of you have worked in a branch of a larger company, you've worked in these sterile environments and offices, and then there's a population of the community that has to watch this and take it at face value and be like, okay, let's trust this without having the experience. Taking it from that perspective as a pilot, I'm curious for you. Do you feel invited into this, or do you feel like you have to warm up a little?
Pilot Michael Scott, first scene, first introduction. I think the most important thing we establish is this is someone who very confidently believes that they could show everyone the ropes and then is going to blunder their way through it. It's the notion of, I'm going to take you under my wing, but these are not sturdy wings. And I think that you're going to see him do that basically with everyone in the office at one point or another in this pilot. And I don't think that you need to have worked in an office job or worked in a sales job to know someone like that. And then just from like a non-character standpoint, knowing now that we have DPs who worked on The Amazing Race, Survivor, The Bachelor, to do these intense close-ups and to slam a camera right into their face instead of that kind of wider multicam framework that we're probably used to in the early 2000s. Such a fun choice to frame it the same way that we do these shows. We're really focusing on the minutia of someone's face. We're focusing on confessionals and how we utilize those to tell the story. And like you said, Rich, it is so commonplace. Now it has absolutely been beaten to the ground. But I think this was really novel for 2005 on a mainstream American network.
Totally.
So we get this idea, this introduction to Michael. I want to talk about a theme that happens in this show. And the main, at least in this pilot, there is the comedy of the mundane, and then there's the comedy of the cringe that are sort of leaned on excessively. And especially for 2005, that is a unique concept, right? We're talking about an era where sitcoms are still live and well, where we are expecting big laughs and we are expecting everyone is in on the joke rather than, hey, you have to wait a beat or two to get into the joke. And I think the main protagonist as far as our cringe comedy comes from Michael. Did it take you to some warming up to get used to that, oh, this is going to be a large part of this?
Big time. And for me, the mundane works better in establishing this world. And I think deep down, Greg Daniels wants to lead into that mundane more. Because when we think about ways that characters really clearly define the world and what the rules of it are and give their mission statements, they're all rooted in the mundane. From Jim's first confessional, him admitting, like, I'm actually not that interesting, my job is pretty boring, like, that's establishing the rules of this game, that it's mundane. Towards the end, when Michael kind of gives his more heartfelt confessional and says, you know, this is about the people, it's not about the sales or the metrics, like, it's about the people in this office, like, that's the theme of this really clearly established. And those are the moments that I found the most endearing and connected me to its pilot and its ensemble the most.
Yeah. I actually, so I 100% agree that that's more my taste in comedy, of like the setting up different elements of, like, I'm trying to rifle through my notes here, and like I do have like some of the jokes of, like, you know, it's just more like everyone behaving like no one wants to be here. Yeah. And that's, like, you know, that's the reality of working in an office where it's like, you know, someone's got to supply paper. Why not us? That's kind of just the machinations of the economy. But for me, I'm like, even though I truly cannot stand, it is very difficult to hold back my secondhand embarrassment for Michael Scott's character. It is like, it actually, like, prevented me from watching later seasons of the show, because I'm like, I can't do this. They have like, you don't have this show without Michael being a fucking psychopath. And I've heard Larry Wilmore, who's like a longtime writer on The Office before he got his own show, he came over from the Bernie Mac show to do The Office, and he was talking about, like, the ethos of Michael Scott is that he's like addicted to love, like that's his, like, shortcoming. He's addicted to people loving him, and that's what makes him a complete insane person. And then he never gets it, and it's like he'll never get it from anybody who is actually deserving on the show. And you definitely need him to tie this together. And because at this point too, I wrote down an entire list of Michael's crimes throughout the show. I just like kept a full rap sheet on him. Starting off from
Michael is going to get Dunder Mifflin sued 101. Like,
yeah, starting off immediately from misgendering someone on the phone. Like that was in the cold open of the show. That was in the first 28 seconds of the show. To doing multiple racist Asian voices also on that same phone call. Like that one phone call just establishes how insane that he is as a person. That's where he is the crux of this. It just does not work without him.
Well, I want to move forward a little bit. And it's not just all about Michael. I think we could do an entire episode of this podcast just about Michael Scott and the ideas and the concepts of him. But I want to open it up to a few of our other characters that we meet in this pilot, because I think that one of the things that this show does great, like any documentary, is you have to understand who are the characters who are going to guide you through this environment, who are our main cast, maybe some may call it, who are our varying different players. And as far as why is today different, we find out that while this is a satellite branch of Dunder Mifflin, there is going to be a downsizing of Dunder Mifflin, and that will also mean there will be layoffs at the same time. And I'm curious, for a show that's about mundane, that's a pretty high stakes thing that we're dealing with. And do you think it does a good enough job of being like, oh, this might cause some chaos in a small satellite office?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That you have a real human stakes situation of why is today different, and it's going to directly affect your ensemble. There's really like 5 main people that we get to know in this cast, and it's sort of like a B team behind them.
Sure.
And then I appreciate the resistance to solve the problem in this pilot. It would be very easy for them to put a button and tell you at the end of 22 minutes what happens, and we don't. We don't even come close to establishing what that is. And so it's like, why is today different in a broad sense, but it doesn't necessarily dictate an A-plot.
Yeah. And what it does too is establish like the continuation of the mundane, in the sense that like, oh, okay, these are the stakes. No one gives a shit about this office going under. Like, especially like, you know, Pam and Jim representing like the Gen X generation of this particular office and everything, and just realizing that nothing means anything. I want to do other stuff. Pam wants to be an illustrator. Compared to all the older people in the office who are just like, I really don't want this branch to close because I'm worried about my house and my kids. Yeah. But ultimately, no one gives a shit about this branch. No one's going to fight for this branch. And I feel like that adds like a really nice, like, ambivalence to the rest of the group, except for Michael Scott.
Well, Rich, you mentioned a little bit about some of the ensemble characters and how they react to this news. Let's dive into that ensemble a little bit more, because we definitely get a ton of Pam in this pilot, which feels appropriate given that Pam is the first person that anyone who goes into this office is going to meet as the secretary or assistant or whatever title this character would have chosen. Probably in 2005, they would have called Pam a secretary, in all honesty. But I think that the idea of when they casted Pam, specifically with Jenna Fisher, it is such a great casting choice. There's a lot of history. We'll talk a little bit about the spin-off podcasts that are made about this show, for sure, because there are a ton of them. But one of my favorite things that I've heard is from Brian Baumgartner about the makeup and the lighting that they used on the show, and how they were very specific about, you are not allowed to use makeup. We are going to use the lighting that is used in an office. Yep. And like, fuck you if you try to put on makeup. And Jenna Fisher has said like, oh, I had a little, a flip mirror with a little bit of foundation and a little bit of lipstick, because I was
just
like,
a little compact.
I had a compact because I'm going to be on TV. I'm not wearing makeup, sort of thing. But
smart.
for that character, and I'm going to invite you two to choose a character that you'd like to talk about a little bit more.
Deal.
But for that character, I'm just like, it's the perfect interpretation of someone who doesn't really care about their job, but is doing it because they're afraid of not having a job. The person that is just getting by, wants to be a painter, so you see them doing whiteout in the most delicate manner that I've ever seen. And there's the comedy in that of, I want to be a painter as they're doing the whiteout. And I was cracking up because I'm like, yeah, that's a great joke. It is a very visual gag, but like, if you're going to like this show or this pilot, you need to be watching every instant of it. The good, the awkward, the cringy, and then there are some gems that are just layered in there very, very specifically.
Right.
Max, who's a character on this ensemble that you were really fascinated by or you want to talk about more?
I'm going to go with the obvious foil of Dwight Schrute, the person who takes this pencil pusher job way too seriously, and you could put in a scene against any other person, and once you've established what their wants and needs are, Dwight can try to be counterintuitive to them. And that's a really fun game, especially when we talk about probably more mild-mannered people who reflect the audience's eyes and POV, and putting them up against this person who is just so out of their element in a normal world and plays maybe the larger sitcom trope, someone who feels almost out of an older multicam in this pilot.
Definitely.
Rich, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the easiest choice is to go with Jim, because he is the de facto second lead in this. If Michael is going to be the lead, Jim and Pam are also the basically top of the totem pole here.
There are B-plot in this show, in all
Definitely.
honesty.
Definitely.
They are very much a running B-plot throughout this episode and probably through multiple episodes.
Yeah.
Going forward,
you really don't get a lot of the rest of the cast yet, and you can tell that they hadn't cast Toby or Oscar yet, or Creed, or oh my god, I forgot her name. Anyways,
Mindy Kaling's character.
Obviously, Mindy Kaling was still a writer for the show before she got cast on it.
Yes.
Same with BJ Novak. But ultimately, Jim is the person who I think represents the distrust of office work and is okay with saying it is boring and not just pretending it's a necessity for all of us. And then also establishing the essentially the forlorn romance of it. It is they are never going to be together, as is established in this particular pilot, but it establishes the work husband nature of them two together.
Well, just really quickly to you saying that he's the clear number two, we don't end this pilot with Michael. This is not a classic NBC sitcom where we bookend it with it starts with this person and ends with this person. Michael says it's about the people, and we end with Jim and Pam, which I think really hits home that idea of this is a workplace comedy that's not about the workplace, in all honesty. It's not about the job that we're building. It's about the people. So let's end with the most human part of our story.
But also, how great of a reveal is it that Jim is not actually waiting up for Pam at the very end, because you want to believe that they're waiting up for each other. You, in these 22 minutes, if they have accomplished nothing else, they're they have to be together. But waiting up to put Michael Scott's world's best boss mug in Jell-O at the end is beautiful.
Well, we've talked a lot about a pilot that is only about 22 minutes long.
Yes,
and I think we could go on for 2 hours if we were given the choice, because there are a lot of things about this show that we could definitely talk about and draw on about. But I want to focus us in on things that we loved. What's one thing about this pilot that maybe we didn't discuss that you'd like to give some shine to?
Oh, what a great question. Let's see.
Max, would you like to start off?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump into this. I like that we have two very, very clear why is today difference, and introducing someone's first day on the job, which is one of the most iconic why is today different situations, along with the introduction of corporate and kind of this outside looming threat. And then I would also just say I like how many like status quos of traditional sitcoms are broken by this, from both not bookending it the same way, having storytelling through a lot of different perspectives, utilizing the confessionals and things of that sort. This feels now like such common fodder, but we have all of these shows because people connected with this type of storytelling 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Rich, what about yourself?
I think for me, the best part of it, and, this is Steve Carell's finest. Like, it is his ace in the hole. It works so well with Anchorman. It works so well going back to the Dana Carvey show. It works so well in Second City and The Daily Show and everything. It's his physical comedy. Mm-hmm. It is him. The moment where he is fake firing Pam and making BJ Novak's character just unbelievably uncomfortable in doing so, and making Pam cry. Him immediately going to read the facts like it's the most important thing in the world, to ignore the cameras that are in his face, it is pure Jerry Lewis style, like, physical comedy. It is absolutely perfect. I love that little bit. He has just such absolutely amazing, like, he could add jokes per minute like nobody else.
Yeah. I do want to add on to that, Rich. I think that one of the cool things about this show is there are a lot of rules of comedy or tropes of comedy that are followed and also broken in this show. The examples that I give is Steve Carell somehow in one pilot plays 4 different versions of a clown, right? You have, and I think that is when people talk about the Michael Scott character and how cringy it is, it's because Steve Carell has the ability to do all of the different clowns, right? He can be the sad clown, he can be the happy clown, he can be the physical clown, he can be a mime
the
in
conniving
certain situations.
Clown. Yeah.
And all of those being done by one person in 22 minutes is insane.
Yep.
And for some people, that's a gigantic turnoff, because some people are happy clown people, and that's cool. Some people are no clown people, and that's also cool.
He does have the way of, like, making you feel like your organs are in just like a vice grip from how awkward he makes a particular situation. I always
feel like I am about to poop around Michael Scott. But the other rule that I noticed that I loved is we talk about the rule of threes a lot on this pilot, and there was the Jell-O puns that were happening, right? And they were all doing, like, dessert puns, and one of them, and, like, Michael Scott just goes, pudding. I'm trying to figure out something to do with pudding. And I was just like, that is such a funny fucking joke, to be like, everyone's waiting for that third joke, waiting for Dwight to do it, or waiting for Jim to say another one, and then Steve Carell to just lean in and do that joke. It's shit like that I see that I'm just like, oh, the writing room in here is... And yes, I understand there was a lot that came from the UK. There are such good bones in this writing room to come up with jokes and writing like that is awesome. Let's talk about wait a minute moments. This pilot is notorious for some wait a minute moments and for some choices that were made. And
can't imagine what you're referring to.
Yeah, no, nothing to do with some impressions that were done. But Max, I want to hear from you. What's your wait a minute moment?
I have to go with Michael Scott, and I'm not taking away from anything that we've said about Steve Carell's performance and what he brings to the table physically and with his facial expressions. I agree with all that 100%. I disagree in this character being good at his job, because he says that this is all about people, and I do not believe that he is good with people, and as a result, I do not find Michael likable in this pilot. I really don't find that, like, ethos and pathos where I want to support him, like, emotionally or have any like sympathy for this character. I think that it is a bull in a china shop, and it does not work for me in terms of the person that I want to follow. When I said that all of the mundane moments are what won me over, it's because every time that there was a Michael cringe joke, I really lost my momentum.
Yeah, I get that. But this, I think in a small challenge here, I think the show is not written for the bosses. The show is written for the audience's employees.
It's written for the workers. Yes. Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day.
The people united.
We love unions here at the TVPL. We love paper unions. We love electrical unions. We love every union.
I just want to say hi to all the comrades listening to here. Everyone here at the TVPL commune.
Everyone who found us in the Russian version of Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah. Rich, what about you?
Everybody appreciate Boris. Okay, wait a minute moment for me is actually going with using BJ Novak's character as kind of like an exposition. He did not need to have his first day in the middle of this. I think it adds too much of a why is this day different, because you get all the exposition you need from those moments without him, really. Like, it's just kind of like a joke fodder added. You could have BJ Novak be the already being a temp, like away from this. Like, you can have him in that back area where the annex of the office, which is established in future episodes. But like, I don't think you need to have him. Just have him be like a regular worker there already. Like I think it was just like a little too much to the pot.
Yeah, and for myself, I'm challenging myself to not add on to two things that you guys have already mentioned, which I had in my notes as wait a minute moments. I am going to say, I'm going to speak to, if you work in management and you are trying to figure out who should be a manager, follow Rich's advice. Not everyone is meant to be a manager of people. Some people.
Yeah, I am. I'm the only one. Please hire me.
Yeah, just Rich. Hire Rich. We'll link his LinkedIn in the bottom of this episode. But what I will say is, Michael reminds me of having worked in sales so many instances. A small aside, when I worked in sales, I had 5 different managers in the period of a year, because what happened was they took people who were really good at sales and then they put them in the manager position, and then they got really sad that they were in the manager position and not doing sales. So what I will say, and this is a little bit off our beaten path as a podcast, don't do it. Just don't. Just give them something else. There are other responsibilities. People are important responsibilities in developing them. Being a true people person takes a lot of things, and sales is not one of them.
Makes for a good TV show, though.
It makes for a great fucking TV show, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But we do have an in-flight question. This question comes to us from Glenn in the Twin Cities. And Glenn asked, if not Carell, who would be the best person to play Michael Scott? Which I think is a really fun question, because Max, you mentioned the variety of different folks who were in line for this role. So I'd love for the two of you to answer Glenn's question. I can go first. I have a great answer.
Let's take Odenkirk off the table.
Yeah,
let's take the established number 2 off the table.
When I read that Odenkirk was in this, when I was doing my history of the show, I was just like, fuck, that would have been so good. That would have been really, really fun.
Yeah.
But I want to hear from you too. Who do you have in mind to play Michael Scott other than Steve
Geoff,
Carell?
do you want to kick it off? You were chomping at the bit there.
It's Tim Robinson. I want Tim Robinson to be I want Tim Robinson to be Steve Carell. No, I want Tim Robinson to be Michael Scott, because I think that Tim Robinson's characters, and I think you should leave, do cringe comedy just so well that it would be just, it wouldn't, let me be fair, it would not be a new interpretation of Michael Scott. I was literally thinking of who could do this, and we would fall in love with the cringe, the humor. I could see, this is no shame on Tim Robinson. Tim Robinson is a normal enough looking dude that I'm just like, yes, he is everyone's manager, and you can picture him just working out of Scranton, Pennsylvania. So yeah, I think Tim Robinson, if you're very busy, don't do a reboot of The Office, please. But if you ever want to do a show like this, I think you'd be a great fit.
We will be covering The Chair Company when it does premiere on HBO.
That's right. And we will be sat for that.
Yeah. No, we're standing.
Shout out to
We're-
chairs.
Shout out to
We're all at standing desks for that entire episode. Rich, what about you?
I have to say the answer is not Will Ferrell. The answer is not James Spader. The answer is not Idris Elba. I think my God, I'm so glad I stopped watching the show after whatever season Steve Carell left. I think the only answer for someone who was about his age or like a little bit older at this time, who can bring a ton of energy out of nowhere and be okay with it not being received back, like not having any energy back and still being able to make the scene work, is Martin Short. I think Martin Short would be a tremendous lead for this show. I think he, especially from watching Jiminy Glick, has the ability to go in places that are offensive and not like make people feel like, oh, this is a bad person. I think for me, he would be my number one.
Rich, what if I told you Martin Short was considered for this role?
Wait, really?
Very seriously.
Oh, I
very,
believe
very
that.
Seriously.
I believe that they also couldn't afford him.
Yeah. Max, what about yourself?
I was trying to think also of like who were big sitcom names at this time, perhaps had availability in their schedule, could play the end of their rope character while also bringing some emotional vulnerability. And so I picked Bryan Cranston for this question.
Great
That's
choice.
such a
someone-
good choice.
Someone who I think could bring that over-the-top manic energy, but also can play real emotional stakes. And honestly, if you haven't checked out the studio from Apple this year, although he's not in it a ton, the highs and lows that character plays are absolutely fantastic. It is a brilliant, like, committed, grounded physical performance in a show of so many people who are trying to go off the top rope already. Taking what he does as like Hal and Malcolm in the Middle and applying it into a more nuanced setting, I think it would have been excellent.
Nice.
I'm going to follow both of your leads. Jason Bateman also would have been a great choice for this.
Oh, yeah.
I know he was on Arrested Development right around this time as well, but I think that would have been really fun. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for that in-flight question. We'll talk a little bit more about how to submit those at the end of the show, but let's talk about the history of this show. 9 seasons and 201 episodes. For a show that is really beloved, and I think found a lot of its cult status based off of streaming and the popularity it had by being on a Netflix.
It ended at exactly the right time.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by the ratings of this show. The show premiered to 11.23 million viewers on NBC when it came out, which is pretty good. If we're thinking about NBC at that time, NBC Thursdays was a killer. It literally ran comedy. But the first season actually only averaged about 5.4 million viewers, and the show ranked 102. It peaked at number 41, which, of the shows we've done around this time period, not that high. The best it ever did as far as viewership was 9.04 million per episode, which that's great. But still, we've talked about some juggernauts, and this, I was just genuinely like, interesting. Okay. Syndication and this TV show were best friends forever. You can currently find it on Peacock, but it's been on nearly any channel that considers itself a TV channel that has comedy on it. DVDs for everything. There are 2 different rewatch podcasts that I would regret not to mention: The Office Ladies and The Office Deep Dive. There was actually a partnership for board games for this show, including a Monopoly and a Clue for The Office, which I want to get my hands on the Clue game, because if someone doesn't die because of a stapler or Jell-O, I'm really upset. But we all know why we're here, and that is for awards. 164 nominations and 30 wins.
Yo.
That includes a Golden Globe for Steve Carell, a Peabody Award for the show, 4 Emmy Awards, but here's the fun part. Steve Carell was nominated 6 years in a row for Best Actor in a Comedy and won 0 times. But more importantly, he has 2 surfboards because he won the Teen Choice Award for Choice Actor in a Comedy. So, Steve, did you really lose? Because you have 2 surfboards at home. But that is the history of this show. And Rich, it is time for your game of the week.
It is. I'm going to do some rapid fire trivia, and I want you to tell me which member of the cast this refers to, and I'm going to give you some options. I also wrote this down as the cast name, not the actor name, because there are some people who are like, I don't think you would know their name particularly off the top of your head. All right, so this cast member was up for a lead in a failed pilot called Assisted Living, where 2 slacker dudes live in an old folks home. Honestly, pretty solid pilot idea. I like that. If you wrote Assisted Living, hit me up. Is it A, Dwight, B, Pam, C, Michael, D, Ryan?
I am gonna go with Dwight Rainn Wilson.
I'm going to go with Ryan.
It is Dwight Rainn Wilson. His father is a famous biographer who wrote both Nancy Reagan and Magic Johnson's biographies. Boy, those are weird adversaries. Is it A, Jim, B, Oscar, C, Kevin, D, Ryan?
I'm going to go with I'm going A, Jim Krasinski.
I'm going to go with Kevin, played by Brian Baumgartner.
It is Ryan. That's BJ Novak's dad, is the famous biographer. Before committing to acting full-time... yeah, if you write Nancy Reagan's biography, your son gets to be on an NBC sitcom. Before committing to acting full-time, he was a special education teacher in Chicago. Is it A, Oscar, B, Jim, C, Stanley, D, Kevin?
I'll go D, Kevin, Brian Baumgartner.
I'm going to go Oscar.
It is Stanley. Stanley did not, his real first name is Leslie, did not commit to acting full-time until he was in his 40s. So good for you for following those dreams.
I've still got a shot. I've got a few years.
Look at him now, hawking Honey Nut Cheerios on the TV.
All right. A former professional cheerleader and burlesque performer. A, Angela. B, Pam. C, Jan. D, Phyllis.
It's Phyllis.
Geoff said it very
Phyllis.
confidently.
She was a cheerleader for
the St. Louis Cardinals, who eventually moved to Arizona. This character did not intern for late night at Conan O'Brien. Is it A, Jim, B, Kelly, C, Angela, D, Ryan, E, Aaron, who is in future season? That's Ellie Kemper.
C, Angela.
I think it's Jim.
It is D, BJ Novak. Every single other person, John Krasinski, Mindy Kaling, Angela interned for both Conan O'Brien in his very first season and SNL, and then Ellie Kemper did the same. But yeah,
can I add a bonus game of the week, Max's edition?
Please.
Do you know which 2 cast members graduated high school together and played on the same Little League team?
That's BJ Novak and John Krasinski.
Yeah.
But
fuck you.
Whoa. There was another pairing.
Podcast HR, Max, so you're going to have to...
We already have the explicit tag on this, baby. What are you going to do about
it? There was actually another duo of this cast that went to the same high school, and I'm trying to remember who it is, but we can continue on and I'll find it.
Well, Rich, thank you for that game of the week. Let's, as this podcast comes to a close and we come to a land, I have 2 questions for each of you gentlemen. The first is, based off of the pilot and the pilot alone, this is why we made this podcast, because there are going to be episodes that may not be representative of the legacy of a show. Are you going to watch more of this show based off of the pilot? And the second is, as we talked about, there is a spin-off of this show set to debut on Peacock very, very soon. If you're listening to this in September of 2025, are you going to take a chance and maybe return to a format and a world that has already been created, but focusing on a different company? So, Rich, I'm going to start off with you.
I do feel like this is a show that is of the era, and that like I will not, based off of this pilot, it is difficult for me to try to buy into the the cringe comedy of it, because I feel like we are collectively past that. So right now, if I was going to start The Office in this exact moment, I would say no. However, 2005, feed me this shit with a spoon, baby. Give it to me. I want to talk with my friends in freshman year of high school about this show. I loved it so much, and when it comes to your second question, I am going to give the paper a chance, but that's because of two words, Alex Edelman.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, I love Alex Edelman. I think he's such a terrific joke writer, and like I haven't seen his acting yet, but I'm sure it's terrific. I think he's just such a funny guy, and I'm giving it a chance just for that. Not to take any food out of anyone else's mouth, but I don't know anybody else in this pilot yet. That's the only name I recognize.
Max, what about you?
Pilot and pilot alone, this is a pass for me. I do not think that the cringe humor sets up a protagonist that draws me in for more. However, this is a show of the OG Hulu generation, something that many of us watched out of order, and our first points of entry were not the pilot. Mm-hmm. So do with that information what you will, but pilot and pilot alone, it's a no. Since Rich took my cast member from the paper, I'm going to say I'm down with Donal, baby. We're talking about Donal Gleason, son of Brendan, and I think that there's enough people of note in this cast, and also just seeing what Greg Daniels did with the revival of King of the Hill recently, that I trust that if anyone's going to take the format of something from 20 years ago and find a way to make it relevant now, I'm going to trust him. So yeah, when it comes out on the 4th, I will be giving it a go.
Hell yeah.
This was a show that I was terrified of doing for our podcast. I was genuinely terrified of doing it because I've built it up in my mind as something, as this like monster, this chupacabra, if you will, that people talk about as being a terrible pilot and not
the Scranton chupacabra, the beast of legends.
And it just eats goats, and but I enjoyed this pilot a lot more than I thought I was going to. I would, if just on the pilot and the pilot alone, and this might mean a lot to our frequent flyers, this might mean nothing, I would give it a second episode, one more, with the basis of there are enough jokes and enough tropes of comedy that I really liked that I was like, they might have something. It might have just been a rough first writer's room. That said, as far as the paper goes, you two both chose people that I am a big fan of, so I'm going to choose two other people that I'm a big fan of, and one is Ramona Young from Never Have I Ever is going to be in the show, and she is wonderful. And then one of my favorite Taskmaster contestants ever, Tim Key, is also in this show.
Okay.
And he is genuinely hysterical. I have so much hope.
I gotta be honest, this got me more excited about the show than any of the marketing.
So much hope. I watched the trailer and I was like, shit, there's actually some really good jokes in here.
Yeah.
So NBC, Peacock, I really hope that you know what you're doing by putting all the episodes, all 10 of them out all at once. But you know what? I think you have 3 folks that are going to try it out. And maybe, just maybe, and hopefully not at the end of this year, we'll be talking about this show for a future episode. Well, gentlemen, that is our flight. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find you wherever you want to be found. Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find me calling people Hillary or Godzilla, and you can find me. You can find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find me original sketch comedy from Max and myself over on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy.
Max.
You can catch me still loving to say "What's up" after 7 years, and on all things social media at Maxwell Saying.
You do though.
And you can find me eating lunch in my car because I can't stand my coworkers. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at RunJeffRun. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can even watch our smiling faces on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, review us, share with your parents, download it on their phones, because we are growing and we're so thankful for all of you, and we're so excited for what is to come. If you have a question for the show or maybe for our next episode, you can always shoot us an in-flight question at tvpilotslicense.com or leave us a voicemail or shoot us a text at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some of the stuff that we have coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
Pudding.